Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, the Two Opinionated podcast could really use your help. And it's easy, it's free. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, imdb.com, named us a top 100 podcast. We came in at number 82. That's a big deal because there's 15 million podcasts and growing. So to be named to anybody's top 100 list, pretty big deal for us. And the way you can help is to go to imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, and that's it. Just bringing our page up. That traffic really helps us out. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. All we ask is that you subscribe. It's also free, but that really helps us to attract these amazing guests that we keep bringing on the program. And that's it. Two easy ways for you to support us, and we would really appreciate the help. Now let's get to that interview. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Opinionated. I'm so excited today. I've got actor Tom Nowicki with me. So welcome, Tom.
Hi. Thank you for having me on. It's great to be here.
You know, I'm really excited to talk with you, and I got a bunch of questions. But before we get into all that, tell me a little bit about what got you into acting. Tough profession. Why'd you want to become an actor?
So in 10th grade, my English, we were reading the Crucible in English class, and my teacher offered extra credit, 4 points, to anybody who would just go down and audition. And I got cast as the Reverend Hale, and what can I say? It took,
I think that happens a lot. You just get a curiosity, or there's something else pushing you to try it, and then you get in there and you're like, hey, this is pretty good.
Yeah. It's not like it's easy, but it turns out to be pretty much the only thing I feel like doing.
When you first started out, did you have like a side job that you were doing while you were trying to make it?
Well, a couple of little things here and there. My first actual side job was I was Lord Larry Oliver, evil genius of the South for the Dixie Wrestling Alliance for 5 years. So that was a sort of a little bit of a detour, but not really a side job.
I was going to say that doesn't surprise me. That seems like a place you would be comfortable at.
Surprisingly comfortable, and I was small and not the most athletic guy in the DWA, and constantly nursing some sort of injury. But it was you will never ever play for a better audience, a more attentive audience in your life. Nobody is there because their wife got season tickets and they're trying to stay awake in a comfortable chair on a Friday night after weeks worth of work. That's the one place in the universe they want to be at that moment, and they're right on top of you. I mean, they do want to kill you, but you just have you have to learn to live with that. But you can.
Well, I think that's part of the reason wrestling's so popular, because it allows fans to be that way. Most places you're always like, these fans need to calm down, but at wrestling events they're like, go.
yeah. Sir, would you please be quiet? They're trying to hear what's going on. No, that doesn't happen in wrestling. No. It's just, sir, you please speak up.
That's right. Yeah, speak up. My son that does the hard stuff for the podcast, the editing and the marketing, that stuff. When he was younger, he was way into wrestling, and I loved it. We had the best times together. But as he got older, eventually he kind of got out of it, and I kind of missed it.
Yeah,
I was like, you sure you don't want to? So I wanted to ask you about the Punisher.
Okay.
Which we've had Thomas on a few times, and he was terrific, and I think he'd tell you that's probably his favorite role. He'd still be the Punisher if they'd let him.
Yeah. Let me tell you, Thomas Jane had the most courageous moment I've ever seen working with an actor. In the scene where he is fighting with the sailor.
Yes.
The sailor inadvertently threw him into the wrong wall, the wall that did not break away. And he separated his shoulder. The arm was just almost hanging in front of him like an elephant's trunk. He absolutely refused to leave the set. They just sent for a doctor to come in. They popped it back into place. And the guy worked another 12 hours doing a fight scene with a recently dislocated shoulder.
And you know how painful that is.
Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. And he just would not give up. And if for no other reason, Thomas Jane should be the Punisher forevermore, just for that kind of sacrifice.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I loved him in the role. I was back in the 90s. I owned a couple comic book stores, so I was a big comic book collector, and to me, of all, and we've had some good Punishers. I thought he was the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed him. But I wanted to ask you, because it's been 20 years, if you can believe it, and I couldn't remember, but you played Lincoln.
I did.
Was that supposed to be kind of a nod to Tombstone from the comic books, Lonnie Lincoln?
So it was not, and there were a lot of fans of the comic book who objected to having a 6 foot tall white guy play someone who was supposed to be, 6.5 foot tall albino African American.
Right.
And virtually every day, going from the trailers to the set, there'd be somebody shaking their fist at me, but it was not the same character. This was a guy that they made up, but they unfortunately gave him the same name.
Well, I thought that's what it was, but I was like, well, it's been 20 years. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong. Good thing you had the wrestling background, so you could take the abuse.
Well, but Tom Jane worked light, so that was a good thing. Yeah.
Well, and you did both Dolphin Tale movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a pawpaw now, so the grandkids they're way into those. They love them, and admittedly, it's mostly for the dolphin.
Well, and why shouldn't it be? Winter was one of the most amazing beings I've ever been around in my life.
Yeah.
The movie, if anything, had to try to rein in how powerful her healing capacity was. I mean, I'm really am serious. The aquarium would allow anybody to come in, and for $200 you could spend 20 minutes in the water with Winter, and she'd be accommodating to anybody who swam with her. But when someone with a disability came in, and we saw this because they kept the aquarium running while we were filming, especially a kid with a problem, she just came to life, and she brought an extra amount of energy and attention and caring to the disabled individuals who were in the water with her. And it's impossible to explain how she understood or the kind of power of healing that she had, but it seemed that everybody who left the water feeling better than they did when they came in. And there were people who came back over and over again, especially, it's right near the VA hospital in St. Pete. So a lot of disabled veterans would come in and swim. And though, to be clear, those folks swam for free. They weren't charged by the aquarium at all. But she was.
That's amazing.
Yeah. She has some sort of special power to her.
Yeah. I believe that. A lot of what we go through and stuff is mental, even when it's physical, if that makes sense. So if you can help with that, I believe that. That's pretty great. We also had Charles has been on the program, who's terrific. I think he directed both of those.
He did absolutely.
Yeah. And what's it like when you're working with somebody that has been an actor but is directing? Is it different? Is it better, worse?
Well, at the risk of offending everybody who's directed me who hasn't been an actor, it's better. You have a shorthand. You can talk and get to the point of what they need in a way that a director who hasn't. Well, not every director. I mean, some directors that just have a magical ability to connect with you, but typically, and especially Charles he was all. I mean, his work is so sensitive anyway, and as an actor, and so he was able to translate what he needed from you in any scene in a way that you could. Where you could get to the important stuff very quickly, and you're not wasting time and not wasting energy. Yeah.
One of my favorite movies growing up, but we used to have a drive-in close to the house, and they would show like a Disney animated cartoon on the weekend, and then they'd follow it with a Disney movie. That was the second feature, was the movie, and they showed No Deposit, No Return over and over and over, and I loved Charles in that. He didn't even have that huge of a role. It was more the Tim Conway, Don Knotts stuff, but I thought he was terrific. So I was a fan of his all the way up, and then he kind of switched to directing. He does a little acting, but mostly directing now. And I think he may be a better director than he was an actor, and he was terrific.
Yeah, well, he's pretty terrific at both. Have you seen Never Cry Wolf?
I have.
Yeah.
That's
a terrific movie. Yeah.
Oh, I love that movie. Love that movie. So you've got a new one coming out, Bad Monkey.
Yes.
I know that. I'm really excited about that. It's Vince Vaughn is in that one with you, but tell me a little bit. What's Bad Monkey about? What's your role in it?
Bad Monkey will be debuting on August the 14th on Apple TV Plus. There'll be 2 episodes right that day, and then every Wednesday through October for a total of 10 episodes. It's adapted from a Carl Hiaasen novel. And I don't know if a lot of people outside of Florida know Carl, but Carl is a very dark humorist whose theme is greed and corruption spoiling the paradise that is Florida.
Okay.
And so this thing takes place in the Keys, and Vince plays a former Miami police detective who moves down to Key West to become a police detective there. And after a couple of pretty unfortunate decisions in his romantic life, gets busted down to restaurant inspector. And
does that actually happen? Is that possible?
I guess when there's no place else to go on the island, that's pretty much it. And and I play Captain Keith Fitzpatrick. I am a 4th generation Key Wester from a distinguished and long lineage of smugglers. My day job is running a charter fishing boat for tourists. And out one day in the Gulf, I find something pretty awful out in the water, which winds up back in Vince's lap, and off we go. He winds up sticking to it until he solves the crime.
Yeah, I love that. When I saw that you were playing the captain, I assumed it was Vince's police captain that you were playing.
No. No, quite kind of the opposite. Yeah.
Well, and you're doing some of the narration too.
I narrate the series. Yeah, all 10 episodes. Yeah, it's the idea is that he's telling the story to tourists on the boat while they're waiting for something to bite. And,
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had you read the book before you were cast?
I am a lifetime fan of Carl Hiaasen. I've read everything he's written. He's one of my heroes. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never read any of his stuff. My father loves him though.
Yeah.
And has read his books for forever. So I'll ask the family, what have you seen this person in? My parents, they never know any of it. And it was the same. They had no idea. But when I mentioned that it was one of his books, then my dad knew.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, he told me he never watches the podcast, but he's like, well, maybe I'll check that one out.
Well, you can tell him that how often adaptations of good books go sideways.
Yeah.
In this case, and again, as someone who's read everything he's written twice, they have taken a great book and somehow managed to make it better. There is Bill Lawrence, who's the creator of the show, did Scrubs and Ted Lasso.
Those little shows.
Yeah, he has a real gift for adapting stuff for television, and it shows in this series.
Yeah, that's terrific. Did the author ever come on set?
He did. I only brushed elbows with him once, but yeah, he wrote a couple of the screenplays, and he was heavily involved in consulting with the story.
You didn't have your book ready to sign?
Yeah, I wish I had been. I should have had him sign my breast or something,
Do you have a preference? Because you've played about everything. Do you have a preference of genre? Do you like comedies, or you like more of the drama?
Man, I would love to do more comedy. Just most people don't find me funny.
See, that's just writing. They're just not writing you the right stuff.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it, trying to get me off the hook there, but
I loved you in Trouble with the Curve. You were the general manager, I think, for maybe the Red Sox. Is that
yes? Yeah.
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 How are you a sports fan?
A hockey fan,
Okay.
primarily. Yeah, I grew up in Detroit for the first 13
Yeah.
years of my life, and that has never left my blood. Yeah.
Yeah, that was I'm a sports fan, period. You know, I
Uh-huh.
used to joke that, you know, I grew up with Wild World Sports and you know, ESPN in the early days where they were throwing, you know, you'd turn the TV on and they'd be doing like blindfolded dart throwing and, you know, just crazy stuff. And I was in it. And I was like, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
But baseball's always been my favorite. So that's one I got to take my dad with me to it. We just really enjoyed it. I thought that
Yeah.
was pretty well done. Well, and I didn't realize this. Of course, I've seen it, but you were in the Blindside too.
Yes, I am. I am in the Blind Side, and uh, um, uh, got to say about Sandra Bullock, you know, and again, the theme is that people who are naturally funny don't find me funny. Fortunately, in that, you know, we weren't trying to be funny, but one of the most generous and gracious actors I've had a chance to work with. You know, she was at Sandra Bullock in Sandra Bullock, the human being, is exactly the person you would hope she would be after watching her movies. You know, she's just a perfectly wonderful kind
I
of.
mean, she does come across that way.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, and that's not acting, that's her. You know, and she and again, a genuine superstar, making a lot of room for just somebody, some local guy to you know, to contribute to the scene. She was great.
Yeah, it's generous though, but you're a talented local guy.
Oh, thank you. And she also so she had evidently at her farm in outside of Austin,
Oh,
people keep leaving animals that they can't find homes for, and she had with her her two Jack Russell Terriers, a brother and a sister, who were born without front legs. They
oh,
walked like penguins, and they could walk. They could hop downstairs, but they couldn't obviously hop up them. But they would hop along with her wherever
that's
she went.
amazing.
It was the, you know, the darndest thing, but also the most touching thing. You know, it's
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's kind of amazing.
yeah, yeah.
I
She grows
as
avocados on her ranch. It's just a
well, you know,
ranch,
as
not a
a
farm.
avocados.
Yeah, yeah. So
You know, those do not. That's not a quick growing. You know, it takes like what 7 years or something like that to actually grow an avocado.
wow. Well, okay. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. She seems like a patient person. So yeah.
Any thoughts? You know, there was a little bit of controversy after the movie. You know what?
Oh,
Was any of that evident when you were filming?
you know,
Kind of unfortunate.
no, it was not. Everybody seemed to be very happy that the film was being made, you know, and there was, and I didn't. We met the whole family
Yeah.
at one point or another, and there didn't seem to be any tension or any conflict. You know, of course I have no idea. But and I was surprised
Well,
to
yeah.
hear the issues that came out of
Same.
it.
I was too. But family's complicated. That stuff
Yes, it
happens.
is. Yeah.
No one's approached you to do a hockey movie yet?
I keep waiting. I'm thinking that Slapshot 3 needs to be starting up right now. Since Paul Newman's passed away, who better
Yeah,
than
yeah.
me to
There
take
you
his place,
go.
right?
Well, you know, we haven't really had that I can think of a really good hockey movie in a little while. It's been a little.
No, we haven't. Yeah. The film with Russell Crowe, something Alaska. What was that?
Oh, that's right. That's right. He
Yeah,
did play a hockey
that
player.
was a decade ago too, and it
Yeah,
was
it's been a little while. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Because like when I was growing up, you had several
Yeah.
that was kind of in to do the hockey movies. You think
Yeah, well, you know,
now would be a good time.
the problem is finding good actors who are also good on their skates, right? And so
We got to get
there is that
Canadian actors.
limitation, right? You, yeah, and that one remarkable thing about Paul Newman doing Slapshot was that he did not skate before that. He just learned. He just
Paul
worked on.
Newman's amazing.
Yeah,
Everything he did was amazing.
yeah, he's my hero.
Yeah.
Absolutely my hero.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty good hero to have. I mean, I grew up watching his movies and he just always seemed to me, he always just seemed in control. The coolest guy,
Yeah.
whatever movie he was in.
Yeah. And if you, so I've got a kind of a three Paul Newman anecdotes that run
All right.
back to back. And you have the time for
Of
me to go
course,
through?
yeah.
So my high school drama teacher, Ann Derflinger, adored Paul Newman. She thought that he was the pinnacle of an American actor, both for the way he worked and the work that he did. And so in my first feature film audition was for Paul Newman directing Harry and Son. And
well, what was that like? That had to be
well, that was frightening. That was terrifying.
Nervous?
Walking in the room. So so 3.5. So outside the door, I didn't know that I'd be able to even speak, even if I did remember my lines for the audition. And when I walked in the door, it was a strange shaped room, and all you could see were a pair of skinny white legs up on a table wearing yellow socks and blue tennis shoes. And those skinny white legs belonged to Paul Newman. And when I got to know him a little bit working on the film, I realized that he had done that intentionally, because you walked in the room and the first thing that happened is that you realized he was actually a human being. He was not, from Mount Olympus, but he was a flesh and blood human being who probably was just as interested in you as you were in getting it right, and that took a lot of the tension. I still screwed up 3 or 4 times, but he very patiently, led me through it. And so I get the job. And, my first feature film role is going to be directed by my hero, someone I've spent my youth studying. And I'd gone down, the film was shooting in Fort Lauderdale. I live in Orlando. It's about 200 miles away. I've been down for my wardrobe fitting and makeup test and everything. And then the night before that I was supposed to have my first day of filming, I made an incredible rookie mistake. Instead of driving all the way down to Fort Lauderdale, I decided to stop off for the night and spend it with a friend in West Palm Beach. It was only 30 miles away, right? It's so not a big deal, but I figured that'd be better than a hotel. Next morning, my car doesn't start, and my friend does not have a car. So I had to take a taxi to the bus station, a bus to Fort Lauderdale, and another taxi to the set. And by the time I get there, I'm about 3 hours late. And I know that I am doomed. This is the end of my career. I'm 3 hours late to my first day on a feature film. And I throw money at the cab driver. I'm running out toward the set. We were shooting in an underground parking garage in Fort Lauderdale. And I'm running toward the entrance ramp. And as I get there, I see Paul Newman walking up the ramp toward me by himself, and he is fixing me with those eyes.
Oh boy.
And I just stopped dead in my tracks. I hung my head, ready for what I knew I deserved. I was about to get torn to pieces out in public by my God, right? Closed my eyes, and the next thing I knew, he had me in a bear hug, and he says, "Oh my God, Tom, thank God you're here. You had us so worried. Are you okay?" And he steps back. He said, "Look, take a second, catch your breath. We're going to head right down to the set." While we were waiting, we went ahead and blocked the scene for the camera. I'm going to walk your part. You look through the lens. You tell me if there's anything you need me to change, and we'll set it up. And then after that, we'll send you back to makeup and hair. But we're kind of a little bit behind, and we need to get going. So he had a chance to destroy a young actor, and I would have had it coming. Instead, he chose to be generous, to make me feel like I was a valued colleague whose contribution to the film was worth whatever screwing up I had done and whatever trouble that had caused him, right?
I love that story so much because I love Paul Newman.
Yeah.
And that just shows that love is justified. He was just a great man.
I'm going to make it better twice more. So in this, I played a guy who repossesses cars for a living. And I bring my car in to get detailed by Robbie Benson, who is Paul Newman's son in the movie. And
love Robbie Benson. It's My Bodyguard.
Yeah.
He played the bodyguard, I think, in the movie when he was acting before he was directing. Yeah.
And he Ellen Barkin was his pregnant girlfriend. Yeah. And so I pull in and I just kind of, suss out the situation. And I tell him, look, there's easier ways to make a lot more money. I hand him my cards, come on and see me, and we'll put you to work. So I'm in a brand new Corvette. And the scene ends, and I back out and drive up the ramp, and we do a couple of takes, and Paul Newman leans into the car and he says, "All right, we got that. Think you can light up the tires and sort of put a button on this scene as you go out?" And so, Paul Newman is leaning into the car and saying, basically, "Are you a man or a mouse?" Right? and every actor is taught, say, when they say, "Do you know how to ride a horse?" "Of course I do. I've been riding horses all my life." So, of course I can. And so I got the lighting up the tires part right. What I didn't get right was the keeping the car under control.
Yeah.
And the back end broke loose and it hit a light stand with an 18K light on it, which is a big, big leg light, which came back down over the back of the car, smashing the back of the car. And and there were a little bit of screaming and a lot, and people running out of the way when that happened. And so, smoke literally clears, and Paul Newman leans into the car again and he says, all right, how about for the next take, I drive? Right. I've just done about $20,000 worth of damage on top of being 3 hours late.
I'm not sure that Paul got his money's worth out of it.
He probably did not. But so this last piece is where it is my favorite part of it. So I've worked with him for a couple of weeks, and on my last day in the show, he asked me if I have my script with him, and to go get it and bring it to him, and I do, and he takes it into his trailer. Work the day. At the end of the day, after I wrap, he calls me in. And so for anybody who doesn't know, Paul Newman was infamous for not wanting any of the trappings of celebrity. He didn't sign autographs. He didn't take pictures with you. He didn't go on talk shows. He kept to himself. He wanted the work to speak for itself. And again, Ann Derflinger, my high school drama teacher, had worshipped him, and I'd let him know about her influence on me and everything. And she at the time was dying of breast cancer. She was in the hospital. Yeah. So Paul handed me back my script, and he had written a 3-page note on the first 3 pages of the screenplay and had a black and white 8x10 of him directing me that he had signed for Anne in that script, which was probably as far away from his principles that it may have ever drifted in his life. And I took that home to Miss Derflinger and gave it to her, and she died 3 weeks later. So that's just that's a hero becoming even more of a hero, in my estimation.
Those are what great stories. And just the fact that you survived working on it kind of tells you, though, he got it. He understood. He understood what it was like to be a new actor. He understood what it was like to be a fan. I think that's why everybody loved him so much.
Yeah. It wasn't just me. I saw him working the same way with everybody. Generosity was just the way he worked. Generosity in just giving space to create, generosity in allowing people to make mistakes and grow from it. He was just a guy who could have, given his position in Hollywood, not had that kind of patience. He could have just pushed right on through, push people aside, but he did not. He chose to be a really good human being as well. Yeah.
Is Slapshot your favorite Newman movie?
The Verdict.
Oh, The Verdict is so good.
What a performance. That's a performance that belongs in the top 10, I think, in film history. And then Slapshot comes in, I think. I love Butch Cassidy too.
That's probably mine. It's probably Butch Cassidy. My dad would be the pool movie. That would be his. He played pool some when he was growing up, so he got those. But Butch Cassidy was probably my favorite. But he's done so many good ones.
Yes.
I always say they don't really make movies like that anymore. At least not as often anymore.
No, infrequently, and I think much, and it's a loss.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, for sure. I thank you for telling those stories. That's amazing.
And I didn't even make them up either. How about that?
I guess you could have. I wouldn't have known. It's not like I'm going to call anybody to check.
I wonder his book came.
Go ahead.
No, his posthumous book came out, about a year ago, and I was eagerly reading through it, and surprise, I'm not in there.
What if you had been?
If I had been, I would have expected to have been like, and I wanted to kill that little son of a bitch.
The truth finally comes out. How did you get the role in Bad Monkey? Was that just a straight audition, or did somebody reach out to you?
It was, and it came as a surprise because I didn't think I stood a prayer. Tom is not much like the captain and it was a pretty darn popular audition in Los Angeles. Pretty much, a lot of people wanted that stuff. So, but the narration thing was not originally part of the show. that after they cut it together and they're trying to figure out how to make it work, that's when they decided that they needed somebody to tie. Because one of the great things about the Carl Hiaasen book is how funny his own narration is about the way people are thinking and how their thoughts are going off the rails and stuff like that. And none of the previous film or TV adaptations of his books had that, which I think maybe contributed to the fact that they didn't really take off.
Right.
And Bill and his team, had the, I think, pretty cunning insight that might separate this, and they decided that they wanted the narration to happen. They wanted it to be a character in the show telling the story, and not a sort of a godlike voice, and that they thought the best character was me. But it took a while to convince Apple of the wisdom of that choice. I think they were hoping they'd find somebody famouser, probably Donald Sutherland or something like that, and I
like it coming from one of the characters in the show.
Yeah, I'm forever grateful to Bill and Matt Tarses for. I mean, it sounds like I'm kissing ass, but they believed in me, and they were so and it was an interesting audition because what they did was put me on Zoom with them and a bunch of Apple and Warner Brothers executives, and had me go through a couple of episodes of narration, and they worked with me as we were doing it, as if we had the job, and I guess demonstrated to them that with a little bit of work, I could give them what they needed, and they were very patient and very hung in there with me, and I wound up with the role.
I've come to the conclusion that Apple doesn't make bad TV. Every
I don't think so.
TV show they make, I've loved.
Yeah, they're good at it.
Yeah, they're pretty good at it. How was working with Vince?
Oh man, so a comedy giant, absolutely, and a guy that again would have every justification for just doing his bit and not paying attention to to the little guy next to him. But he has a really strong background in improvisational work. And that kind of requires you to pay attention to the other person in the scene. We stayed very close to the words that were written for us, but he was very, 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 very generous in allowing me room to sort of fit in, and get a few punches in. So yeah.
I mean, he seems like that type of guy you just want to go and have a drink with.
Yes, yeah, and he's very relaxed when he works, and that's that's pretty comforting. Yeah,
I would think so, because if you had any nerves, someone that's just relaxed and calm and doesn't seem like anything's bothering him, that would calm me down.
Yeah, he's very a very easy man to try to be funny with. We'll see.
Well, I saw Bob Clendenin had a few episodes on the show, and we've had him on the podcast. He's an improv type of guy, and just funny with that. And I was like, well, there's got to be at least a little bit of humor in there.
Oh yeah, it is primarily this is it's a dark comedy, but it's primarily a comedy. Yeah, with a lot of blood and body parts. Yeah. It would go well with your background, actually. Yeah. So
yeah. We had that background when we were operating out of a bedroom, and we moved into a studio, and I was like, I love that background. I'm leaving it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Loved you in Mr. Mercedes.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's my son got me to watch that. He's a Stephen King fan, and that's one of his favorite books. So he got me to watch it. But I thought that show was really well done.
Yeah, me too. I'm sorry it didn't last longer than it did. But
I was too. I wanted at least one more season.
Yeah.
But I thought you were great in it. Were you a King fan?
No.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying I've read a book or two of his, and he's a really good writer, and I love his movies. But I just never really. I'm kind of a scaredy cat. That's part of it.
And the Mr. Mercedes books are very, 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 very scary. They're truly frightening. And it would not be a place that I would venture again without needing to read it for a role, because again, like you, I just wouldn't be able to sleep.
Yeah, well, that's it. My type of scary is more probably more Alfred Hitchcock, a little more, it's all the kind of dreading and, the buildup and suspense and stuff, but there's not a lot of gore and stuff. I mean, other than maybe a little bit in Psycho.
Yeah.
Well, and I wanted to ask you about Lodge 49 because you had a pretty good stint on there as well.
Yeah, yeah. That was a great show that critics loved and hardly anybody watched. And
I know I was kind of surprised. I really thought that the second season it would take off.
Yeah.
And it just never really did. And yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, they were trying to make a show that you couldn't figure out. And I think they were too successful in doing that, and for me, I'm kind of the, if my career is marked by something, it's, getting a great role in a show that never gets picked up, or, or in a film that never gets distributed. And that was sort of the case with Lodge 49. For people who didn't see it, I played the father of the lead character, played by Wyatt Russell. And before the show begins, I've gone off surfing one day and never come back. And Wyatt spends the first season believing that I am not dead, that I'm stranded someplace, and I'm going to come back because we had a pretty close relationship. And I keep showing up in flashbacks and, in apparitions and, walking through the clouds and stuff. And in the second season, he has finally come to realize that I am, in fact, gone for good. I'm dead and I'm not coming back. So season 3, of course, I was going to show up alive. They hadn't figured out what I had been doing, but I was going to come back and complicate everybody's life, so yeah, when they didn't get picked up for season 3, it was
that kind of
personal heartbreak too.
It is. That's kind of hard when you're like, oh, my role's starting to get good. And it's over.
But it was, and that show was filled with so many talented people. And
was it a TNT TBS type of show?
FX.
Okay, yeah.
It was FX show.
Yeah, and FX is pretty good about putting out the weird type of shows that have that kind of spin where it takes you a little while to kind of figure out what's going on, if you figure out what's going on with that. But they're pretty good at that. That's why I was hopeful.
They were very patient, and honestly, I don't. Well, I keep saying things that are will get me fired from things I'm not even on yet. I don't think anybody thought that the numbers fell off from the first season to the second season far enough to justify getting tossed off the air. But it was they were patient for 2 years, and I think a lot of people, even my friends, were scratching their heads, about what
it's the same. I was hopeful. Because it just felt like one more season, we're gonna get some
answers. It needed it.
Well, I grew up watching Kurt Russell, first in the Disney movies, and then as he grew up and stuff. Wyatt, to me, looks just like him when he was a young man. I wondered how it was in person.
Well, so one of the most flattering castings of my life is that he would have been my son, right? So most of the time I was working with him, he had the beard, and he did not resemble his dad so closely. But when he shaved it off, for the episode at it's a little disorienting. Who are you talking? Who are you talking to? And
I mean, it's kind of eerie. He looks so much like when he sounds like him.
He does. Yeah. Also a hockey player, by the way, played at the University of Alabama. He was a goaltender and blew out a knee and decided that, hey, give the acting thing a try. Go into the family business.
In the family.
Yeah. It turns out he's good. He's really good.
He's really good. Both of them were in that Monarch show on Apple. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's a scene in that where Kurt Russell is watching what's supposed to be his younger self, but it's Wyatt playing his younger self. So he's watching a movie that's from 30 years prior or something like that. And it's so weird just seeing kind of him interacting with what's supposed to be himself, but it's Wyatt, but they look so similar.
Yeah.
Well, I should probably mention too that you were Orson, I think, on MacGyver.
Yeah, the last 2 episodes, bad guy. And so
You made a good bad guy.
yeah, thank you. It's kind of my thing. Like I said, nobody wants me to be funny. Yeah.
I know that if you could find like a villain that was also hilarious, that'd be
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Well, so I had that for a while on Roller Jam. That was
Yeah.
yeah, it was a sort of an apocalyptic version of roller derby that we did 144 episodes of around 1998 to 2000. And so I played
Has
a
it
guy
been
named
25 years since that was out?
Yeah. And so I played a guy named Kenneth Logue III, who was a self-righteous, moralistic billionaire who decided that America was going down the wrong track, so he was going to pull it back down by creating good, clean family entertainment that taught strong moral lessons. And for some reason, he chose roller derby, right? And this is the most ridiculous thing, but that's how clueless he was. And and of course, it's populated with extraordinarily good-looking, athletic young people who are doing everything they possibly can, any way they can cheat to win. And I've also played and my triplet brothers, Lenny and Benny, as well as our dead mother, Drusilla. And
That's quite the range.
And KL3 was soon dubbed the most hated man in sports. Just because, and he wasn't trying to be bad. He was trying to be good. He just couldn't help himself, always trying to make the girls cover up and, the guys clean it up. And so.
That's funny. That's funny. What I should ask, did you play any hockey growing up?
Oh, I did. Yeah. It was when my father decided to move us down to Florida, he came down and scouted it out earlier. And he said, don't worry, you're not going to miss the hockey because it's going to be just like Flipper. You'll be walking barefoot to school, or your pet dolphin will be swimming in the canal next to you. He'll be picking oranges from the trees. He wasn't exactly honest about that.
Well, you got to persuade kids to go.
You did. Yeah. Yes, especially my brother and I, a couple of urban hockey playing kids. It was a tough sell, but we believed him.
Could you roller skate?
Yeah.
I never was very good on like ice skates, but I could roller skate pretty well.
Yeah.
You think it would translate, but I was like, something about it going from four wheels just to that kind of blade.
Yeah, it's a little more challenging, but I grew up on them, so I don't ever remember learning to skate. Just
you just skated.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time. This has been terrific. I can't wait for Bad Monkey. It comes out, I think, on the 14th on Apple. 2 episodes.
2 episodes that day, and then 1 a week on Wednesdays until the middle of October. Yeah, 10 episodes.
I kind of like that format. I mean, binging is great. That has its place, but I grew up with you had to wait a full week before you got to see the next episode, so you really got to dissect the episode.
Yeah.
Of course, also, if you missed an episode, you had to wait till summer before they rebranded. You were lucky. Yeah. But I kind of like that. But I like where they're dropping a couple episodes to start, because then you can really get involved.
Yeah, and then also when it's week by week, it gives you have something to talk about with your friends. Nobody's ahead of you, and hopefully nobody's behind you, and you can talk about what you think might be coming.
It's so much easier to keep up with like an episode a week.
Yeah,
instead of because with binging, you got to binge fast, or they're already going to be talking. Before I let you go, Tom, anything else you're working on that we can keep an eye out for?
No. Well, there are rumors that Roller Jam might be getting a revival.
Oh my God,
which would be terrific. And but I'm just spending most of my free time on my hands and knees praying to the TV gods to get us a second season of Bad Monkey.
I think there will. I
hope. Yeah.
Do you think Roller Jam would you still be the bad guy?
Yes, I've talked to the producers, and Kenneth Logue III would be back.
Oh, that's terrific. Yeah, that's a little nugget there. I like that. I hope that works out. If that happens, you got to come back and tell us about it.
I will. All right.
Terrific. Last thing, Tom, where can we find you on social media?
You can't. I am not a social media person at all.
You got to get you a guy. You get you a person to do that.
Oh, I like playing into the cranky old man part of me, yeah.
Honestly, you're probably happier than most of us because it's a time suck, but now it's a little negative out there.
Yeah, it is, and I'm really happy not to hear what people really think of me.
Yeah, right. Well, if you're like me, I miss magazines and newspapers. I like to hold, actually hold it, and books for that matter. Now everybody reads, on tablet or they're listening to it. I like to hold it in my hands.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. All right, sir. Hold on one second, but thank you so much. This has been.
Thank you, Michael. It's fun being here.
Yeah, it's been great. Okay, hold on. Nowicki, love his voice. I have no doubt he'd make a great narrator. When he said he did some wrestling, I was thinking he was probably one of the announcers because he's got such a good voice. He was actually out there, mixing it up a little bit. It was pretty great. So the show is Bad Monkey. Stars Vince Vaughn. He plays Captain Keith Fitzpatrick, who's a kind of a boat captain, not Vince's police captain like I thought, but he also narrates. Comes out August 14th on Apple. If you're not subscribed to Apple, you should, because they have a ton of shows, really, really good stuff. And we have had a lot of those actors on the podcast. There are plenty of people to check out. Bad Monkey's got a few that we've had on the show before. I mentioned Bob Clendenin. There was a show came out around 2010 called Quick Draw, where it's still on Hulu, a couple seasons. It's mainly improvisation. We've had John Lear was the star and the writer, and we've had him on the show several times, and he talked a little bit about Quick Draw and the fact that he would set the scenes, but he basically let the actors kind of make up their own lines. It was mostly improvised. Hilarious. I absolutely loved it. Lasted just a couple seasons. Bob was terrific on that, and then of course he was on Cougar Town as well as the neighbor that they never let in the house, but he'd always be coming up to the window. He's just funny guy. So he's in that. And we recently interviewed Lauren Bugliotti, who is also a terrific actress. She's also in Bad Monkey, so make sure you check that out. If you're finding us for the first time, you'd think this is we're getting ready to put out episode 817. Been doing this for 5.5 years or so. You would think at this point I would be able to get through a sentence without saying 16 times, but that's those of you that watch the show. Just you put up with a lot in order to see these terrific guests. Thank goodness we bring these amazing guests on the program. You don't just have to listen to me the entire time. But if you are finding, or did it again, if you're finding us for the first time, so happy that you're here. As I mentioned, over 800 episodes of the best guest. I would put our guest list up against any other podcast, any talk show for that matter. We've been so blessed. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Please subscribe if you go there. It's free. It's easy. Really helps us out. Our website is meistercon.com. You can find all 816 episodes and counting, audio and video versions of those. It'll also let you know if we're doing something in studio, if we're going on location, covering a convention, anything we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. So please check us out there. Now, I'll put one more plug in. imdb.com, entertainment database, named us a top 100 podcast. I couldn't believe it. There's 15 million or so podcasts, and they grow daily. To be named on anybody's top 100 list, pretty big honor. If you go to imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, it'll tell you every single person that has been on the show, and just that traffic on our page helps us out. And it's also free. Thank you guys so much. Till next time. Bye, everybody.